My kids see me work, and they know I work hard. I've known dads that have come home from work. It may be a job that they're reluctant to go to, and their only escape is to come home and play video games.
Yeah.
And their kids, instead of spending time with their kids, well, dad comes home from work and he gets on the computer and puts his headset on and goes into his, virtual world.
Right.
That's what they're seeing. I'm like, I do work hard. Mm-hmm. My kids do see that. I try to spend as much time with them, even though they're in their teenage years now and they don't really spend time with us. But it's, as long as they see you doing what you do, hopefully they'll model it down the road. If they turn out to be hard workers, I'm not going to complain about that.
Right. No, they need to be. And I can say that they are, but I think we encourage our kids to just do what makes them, not follow what society tells you to do, but follow what you want to do.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York's Middle Tennessee, it says here. Sounds riveting. This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
That's right. Thank you, Matt Wilson, for the big intro for this show, the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. Matt owns and runs the Mostly Marketing Podcast. Check him out. You'll be able to find it just by plugging in those words into a Google search or even on LinkedIn, or just look for Matt Wilson on LinkedIn. Even the details are in the description. Yes, this is a podcast for Middle Tennessee business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs, and we talk about the triumphs, the stories, the challenges that they have. And it's such a rich community of entrepreneurial spirit, which is why we kind of rebranded this podcast to what it is today. This is a video and audio podcast. You can watch us and listen to us at MMTBP.com. That's MMTBP.com. Kind of rapping to the beat there. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, all that fun stuff. We have 10,000 average downloads per episode is what we're shooting for in 2024. We're a long ways off, but hey, we put it out there. We try to shoot for the moon and land on the roof. I am your host, Jim McCarthy with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com, and today we've scheduled, then we've rescheduled, we've rescheduled and scheduled, then rescheduled again. We're finally here.
We're here.
Lyndsay Stafford, how are you? Bring that mic closer to your mouth if you don't mind. There we go.
How's that?
There we go. Now I can hear you. So finally getting this going. You own and run Williamson County Neighbors.
Yes.
It is a high gloss magazine that comes out to all the different communities, especially in College Grove. You've got Thompson Station?
Franklin.
Yeah. And what else?
Franklin, College Grove, goes a little bit to Arrington, Eagleville. Right. We're all over, but I focus on those two, Franklin and College Grove primarily. So
I'm going to describe the product that you put out.
Yeah.
If you ever go into like an office building or a store, or maybe are you delivering them to households as well?
Yeah, it's direct mailed to specific homeowners. So we target specific homeowners that are the most profitable consumer for business owners.
Mm-hmm. And typically you're looking for home services-esque companies to advertise in.
Yeah. We don't discriminate.
Right.
If you want to connect with those customers, then that's what we do. So it's really any business owner that wants to be connected with the profitable consumer. So everything from, restaurants to workout facilities and everything in between.
And this is just a culmination of a whole bunch of stuff you've been doing.
Yes.
For a majority of your life.
Yeah.
Your adult professional life, it sounds like it started when you were 6.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, I had to work hard at 6.
Tell me about that. Where did you grow up? Was it around here?
No, that's the hardest question. When I'm asked that, I'm like, I don't really know what to answer. I was not a military brat. My dad was in retail. So that's what,
It's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, basically, pretty much. So I was born in Ohio, Columbus, and then Cincinnati. End of elementary, middle school, I moved to the northwest suburbs of Illinois. Mm-hmm. And then my freshman year of high school, my parents thought it would be super cool to pick us up and relocate us all to Maine. Of all places. So
Southern coast, hopefully?
Yeah, Portland area.
Nice.
I went to Scarborough High School. And so Scarborough, Maine, southern Maine, which actually it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of big entrepreneurs that have come out of the high school that I went to. So that's pretty cool. But Scarborough, and then I went to college in Boston. And then I met my husband, and my retail career took us all over. So Vermont, New Hampshire, Baltimore, and finally for the last 10 years in Middle Tennessee.
In Middle Tennessee. So you're a relocated Yankee like me.
Yes. But I feel like I'm an OG because I've been here for 10 years and everyone around us moved here yesterday.
This is like Nevada. When we moved out to Nevada, I think the running joke was it only took 6 months to become a native.
Because it's so transient.
It's so transient. Yeah. And, Middle Tennessee is kind of the same way. We have a lot of California's moving here, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, so many different northern states. They're just getting tired of how it is up there. Even in the Northeast, we just got back from New York last week, and I'm sure you've been there.
Yeah, a couple times.
I was dreading the trip. And once we not because of because it was New York and it was in February, and
that's all you have to say.
Right.
New York in February.
Those canyons, they get really cold, especially in February. But the weather was wonderful. It was really nice and temperate. Wasn't really looking forward to going to New York because it was New York. I mean, we grew up around the city in Connecticut, right? We could hop a train at any given moment and be in the city. So we were kind of used to it. But this is the first time I had been back in 5 years. Once we got there, it was like, you know what? I'm good. This is kind of cool. We had a shooting right outside of our hotel.
And just for some added interest there.
Yeah. My buddy was meeting us for dinner and he goes, hey, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. Okay, what's going on? He says, they're wrapping the area outside of your hotel with police tape. Oh, okay. What happened? A tourist got shot in Times Square. Oh, okay. And then we walked him to his car later on and all the news crews were out there and making a big deal out of it. I'm going, doesn't this happen all the time? Like every day here? I don't know.
That's New York City.
That's New York City.
Yeah.
Welcome to New York.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you and I have a lot of similarities in that aspect.
Yeah.
You've just done, you tuned into your entrepreneurial spirit a whole lot younger than I did.
Well, I wanted to in college.
Yeah.
My junior year of college, I never liked school. And I always did well. I had good grades, but it was just, and I still feel this way. So this is probably a unpopular opinion, but I'm okay with that. I just think schools teach kids what to think and not how to think. And
obedient workers.
Yeah. And I was not. So I always managed to do really well in school. And I went to college. I went to Suffolk University, majored in marketing, business management. But my junior year, I kind of got this itch that I wanted to do something. And I fell into a direct sales company at 19 years old or however old I was. I don't remember. Maybe I was 20. Yeah. I was in my early 19 or 20 years. And I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do long term, but I realized I wanted to work for me. And so that was my first taste of it. I ended up having a retail career for several years after that. So I ended up spending about almost 20 years in the corporate retail space, which is what I grew up in retail. But I thought I would be on the buying side or behind the scenes. I ended up running stores and then was a district manager for several years. But in that as well, in my time in corporate retail, I loved what I did. I loved the customer. I loved coaching people. I loved helping people make their business better and making them better through, in order to make their business better. But the world changed a lot. And I also realized, I don't know for any parents out there, but I have 2 athletes. And that's another mortgage payment paid for all the things athletes
What are they playing?
need. My daughter's a cheerleader for Page High, and my son is a basketball player for Page, but he also plays for AAU, for the Stars team.
Oh, wow. Great
local Christian organization too, by the way. So anyways, I started my own business on the side and just kind of went from there. But yeah, I realized early that I wanted to start a business, but I didn't grow up in that world. So my parents, they were not entrepreneurs. So it was harder for me than I would have liked it to be.
It almost sounds like it's the concept that I've been coming across recently. One of my clients, Brian Covey, he's very entrepreneurial, but he is also working for a company. but he's also out there, building his personal brand, giving a lot of speeches and talks on leadership and things of that nature. He calls himself an entrepreneur. Have you heard that term?
No, I haven't. But that's what I did for about 5 years before I walked away from corporate. It was about 5 years of building on the side. And that's a hard hustle, but it's worth it. I remember sitting down with my son and I was like, working full time and then had all the things I was doing on the side. And I remember like tears in my eyes saying, buddy, I promise it's not going to be like this forever. I won't always be this busy. Yeah. And I believed it. And now, I'm his chauffeur. So.
Hey, Middle Tennessee electricians, handy women and men, and just those of you needing better commercial LED lighting solutions. Yeah, I know, there's so many of you. I have to tell you, there's another option than just the big orange and blue box stores now. Try j2lighting.com. At j2lighting.com, we have the latest technology in all types of commercial LED lighting, from UFO high base, drawers, area lights, and shoeboxes, right on down to a slim line wall pack that doesn't look like a fist coming off the wall like most other wall packs do. You get what I'm saying, right? Many of our fixtures are wattage and color temperature selectable, which means you have more control over the brightness and appearance in your dark spaces. Check us out at j2lighting.com for a great local source for your commercial LED lighting ideas, even full color light show dreams. Yeah, totally. That's the letter J and number 2 lighting.com. j2lighting.com. My kids see me work, and they know I work hard. I've known dads that have come home from work. It may be a job that they're reluctant to go to, and their only escape is to come home and play video games.
Yeah.
And their kids, instead of spending time with their kids, well, dad comes home from work and he gets on the computer and puts his headset on and goes into his, virtual world.
Right.
That's what they're seeing. I'm like, I do work hard. Mm-hmm. My kids do see that. I try to spend as much time with them, even though they're in their teenage years now and they don't really spend time with us. But it's, as long as they see you doing what you do, hopefully they'll model it down the road. If they turn out to be hard workers, I'm not going to complain about that.
Right. No, they need to be. And I can say that they are, but I think we encourage our kids to just do what makes them, not follow what society tells you to do, but follow what you want to do.
Is it important to you that they go to college?
This is going to be another unpopular opinion, but no, it's not.
That's very popular. You'd probably be surprised.
It's not. I mean, I went to Suffolk through my junior year, and then I was taking a year off and ended up just continuing to get promoted in the retail space. So I actually never graduated. And my parents were like, don't you want to maybe just finish it so you have it? And I'm like, I'm kind of proud that I don't, that I've been able to do this without that. So
I had no idea that you weren't a graduate.
Yeah, I'm a dropout.
High five
to the drop. Yeah. I mean, I could have easily finished the last year, but I ended up, like I said, just got promoted, and then I got married really young, had babies really young. I was 23 when I met my husband. Got married, and by 26 I had 2 kids. So, and then it's like, we just gotta provide for them, right? So, it's important to me that they do what's gonna give them the best advantage for what they want to do in life. Yeah. And my daughter wants to do hair, and so that's what she wants to do. She wants to go to cosmetology school, and we'll support that. Yeah. My son wants to play basketball in some way, shape, or form, so whatever that looks like for him, we'll support. Actually, on the previous episode, as the time of this recording, it should be out by now, by the time this episode comes out. A couple of episodes ago, Sherry Hildreth was a guest on the podcast. Okay. Amazing salon owner. Okay. Amazing. She's up in Franklin. So, listen to it if your daughter wants, an in I will.
And get her foot in the door. I'm sure Sherry will be happy to talk to her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you're more kind of along the lines of my thinking with my kids. I don't care what you do as long as you know who you are. Yep. You have that self-awareness quotient. That was kind of looked down upon when we went to school. Well, that's why I went to college, right? That's what you did. I mean, that was the path. Yeah, you went to high school, then you went to college. I remember my parents were like, you have to apply to a couple of schools. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go to Boston. It's not that far. I guess, and of course I pick a real expensive private school, and I only applied to 3 schools, and they were all in Boston. But what were the other 2? Bentley and Simmons. Oh, okay.
And Suffolk was really the only one they had a good business school. So
not like BU or anything like that? Or?
No, I'm telling you, I didn't even want to go to college.
Right,
I was like, my mom like literally was like, fill these out. Like you have to do something. And we won't do that. We teach our kids to just do what you want. I mean, my son's starting in a basketball apparel business. We're working with Custom Community, another friend of ours.
BNIer.
Yep. And I'll support that. I mean, whether he makes money or not, it's not important to me. He learned how to do that. That's what I want him to do. So
and figuring it out.
Yes. You make it good. If you're, I just pray every day that they keep faith and family as their center. And as long as they do that, we'll support them.
Right. So, I mean, even was there any part of college that nurtured at least the network that you needed to really?
No, seriously, no.
Just the people that you hung around with, no inner circle building, nothing?
No, I mean,
really?
For a lot of people, college is like that foundation. I actually don't think I speak to anyone I went to college with.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of stupid. I had a boyfriend and and Suffolk is a great school, but there's no campus. So there's no like hanging out with people on campus and things like that.
It's not like UConn.
So. No, I mean, I went to parties at UConn actually.
So did I had a girlfriend that went there at the time, and I was up there practically every weekend, and it's a party
we might have been there at the same time.
Maybe.
And my best friend growing up went to college in Illinois, and she was in a sorority, so I did plenty. Actually, still have the boots I wore to the barn dance at her college. But no, college wasn't, all the moving around, actually. I have relationships with people all over the U.S., really from all the places I've lived.
Okay.
College really wasn't integral for me.
So it basically taught you that I don't need it.
Well, my parents would probably not be real happy with the amount that they paid for it for me to say that.
But that's what their thinking was.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with my mother yesterday. I said, I know I was the challenging kid out of the two of my brother and I. Mm-hmm. My brother went off and did the path. He went to college. He did decent with it. Found his calling in law and stuff like that. But both of us were musically inclined. And it's funny because one of the podcasts I did yesterday was with my friend Rich Redmond, who plays for Aldine. He and I co-host his podcast. We interviewed Bill Gibson, who played for Huey Lewis and the News for 40 years. And they both were talking about how their parents were very encouraging with their music aspirations. And I said, well, so basically you're telling me I can blame my parents for not pursuing that line of work? And I said, I actually bucked the trend and pursued radio. And my parents were like, what in the world are you doing? And they had no idea, no clue about radio. Right. I just always knew I had a bent for it. But for my teenage years, early 20s, I want to be a professional drummer. I just never chose it because it was like, I have no idea how to get in. It's hard. I'm not sure if I really want to do it, And I joke with Rich. I said, I met you in 2008 and you taught me the fact that I made the right decision because, man, it's not a life I would have wanted. So,
it would have been hard.
Oh, man, living on a bus?
No,
Gosh,
thank you.
No way.
No.
He loves it, though. That's his thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, I talked to my mom after that and I was telling her all about the discoveries we made. And I said, I don't blame you. I said, I know I was a difficult child, but man, I said, I said, we kind of take a different tactic with our kids. I want you to find out who you are,
Yeah, and I think the world is different. My story, this will tell you a little bit about how I was too. My husband and I met and we got engaged 3 weeks after we met.
Oh, wow.
And then we got married 4 months later. And when my husband called my dad to, ask him if he could marry me 3 weeks after he met me.
Talk about alarm bells, right?
Yeah. At the time I didn't realize I was so young. I was 23, but I'm 12 years older than my twin brothers. There's 5 of us. We're all here in Middle Tennessee. And the twins were 11 when I got engaged and ended up getting married. And when my husband called my dad and said, I would like to marry your daughter. He goes, I don't know why you're calling me. Have you met my daughter? Because she's going to do what she wants. You don't need my permission. She's going to do what she wants to do. So, that's how I always was. It was, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I think I broke in my parents a little bit because I think the twins got away with everything by the time they were
They're kind of like the middle children, I guess, right?
Well, there's 2 in between us.
In between the twins.
Yes.
So they were the youngest.
They're the youngest. So I have a sister who's here in Franklin. I have a brother who's in Nashville, and then I have the twins. One's in Nolensville, and one's in Nashville.
Well, of course, yeah, they're going to get away from everything.
Yes, they got away with everything.
Because I mean, the parents,
they're tired.
You're always tired, but we've already been through this,
right?
You know, the oldest child has the hardest time because we're going through everything the first time together.
Yes.
Now we know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And the personalities and all that fun stuff.
Right. So. But they've always, you know, they weren't crazy about me taking a year off and jumping into a career, but I loved it. And then when I started my own businesses, they've been super supportive. And I think it's opened their eyes to different avenues as well. My parents live next door to me. Mm-hmm. So we're super close. I see and talk to my parents every single day. I mean, it's pretty rare that there's a day that I'm not going for a walk with my mom and my dad. Now he's retired. He worked for Tractor Supply for 12 years. He just retired. He was a VP there. And now I think they see it, but so they're supportive of that with their grandkids, but that wasn't the culture, which is one of the reasons that I work with the Entrepreneur Innovation Center here in Williamson County, which is a great organization for anyone whose kids are interested in becoming an entrepreneur. What they do is they take high school students and they actually create a product and a business. And then they have a little mock Shark Tank, and they've got mentors that come in and help. And it's just a really cool program. But that's one of the things that I'm passionate about, is educating the youth on you can start. You don't have to have all these connections to start a business. You can start something on your own. It just
starts with a thought.
Right. You know? But then it has to be nurtured. And I think that's where so many people they get lost.
Yeah. I actually used that analogy on my daughter as we were coming into New York from JFK last week. And we went under the tunnel underneath the East River, got into downtown Manhattan. And I said, now look around you. Here I am thinking I'm going to be prolific and profound and inspire my daughter. And I say, everything around you in this city started with one single thought. The whole city. Think about that. She goes, doesn't everything, Dad? And I'm like, yeah.
Yes, it does, honey.
Okay.
I'm glad you know everything.
Yeah, it's, you're not getting what I'm saying, but that's okay. Eventually you will. I'm just Dad. What do I know?
Right.
Right now we're going through, she wants to go into music.
So you're gonna actually nurture that thought.
Well, here's the thing, is because I'm Dad. What do I know? Right. And all of a sudden, I know Rich, I've known him for going on 16 years now. He's very influential in Nashville in the music machine. And he's even influential in LA. And I said, we sat after, because she was up there for singing at Carnegie Hall for choir. And the morning after, actually the day we were supposed to leave, we went to this place called the Stardust Diner. You ever hear of it?
I actually have heard of it.
It's where a lot of aspiring Broadway types want to go. They can serve tables, they can make a good living, but they're also working on getting their foot in the door into Broadway. And they sing to you while you're sitting there eating breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I pointed out to her, because long ago I said, if you want to do this kind of lifestyle, let me show you how to fund that lifestyle so you don't have to wait tables. So as it kind of dawned on her, I said, this is the kind of life that you're going to have if you don't fund your lifestyle. Right. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to make money. You're going to have to beg for tips to pay for acting classes and this, that, and, headshots.
Right.
And I think maybe it's sunk in. I said, I don't care if you go sell cars when you leave high school. Learn how to sell, learn how to build up a pretty good down payment for a multiplex and live in it for a couple of years and then buy another one. I'll go in on it with you.
Yep.
And fund your lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you have to go to New York, because you'll be paying $3,000 to $4,000 a month in rent.
Yeah, just in rent. Then you got to eat.
Right. So who knows? Maybe it'll sink in. But what do I know? I said, look, you have a resource in Rich who will be happy to sit down. You've got the entirety of the music business in your own backyard that you can get your foot in the door easily, that people move here to do.
Right.
And I said, you already got an in with a guy who knows a lot. Everybody knows him. And of course, he knows a ton of people. I said, you have that resource.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Okay, Dad. Like, dude, the guy said he's come to our house. We've broken bread with him. The kids are familiar. But what do I know?
Yeah.
It's that damn bias,
Yeah, Dad knows nothing.
But you remember when, your parents' advice actually did sink in? How old were you?
Well, I'm
still waiting.
I'm just kidding. No. I think I'm really fortunate because my parents, because of the relationship that we have, and I'm the oldest, it's kind of interesting because when we hang out with our friends, my husband and I, which, most of our time is with our family. That's our priority is, our family time, and we'll soak that in as long as we can. But my parents are with us. We hang out with them.
Right.
And so I think when this is probably the best thing I took from college. My freshman year, I took a marketing class. And I didn't know how to study. Mm-hmm. I had never had to study. I just got good grades and I just, went to school and did, whatever. And I called my dad and said, how do I study? I have a test. I don't know. What am I supposed to do to study? And my dad was he's always been a VP in retail. So he was always in product development, sourcing, that kind of thing. So he was always in Asia and somewhere. And I remember him saying, okay, and walking me through, get your book out, highlight, note, literally walking me through how to study. And then I had to write a marketing paper. And I'll never forget my dad getting on the phone with me. And I don't know, God knows what time it was in Asia when it was whatever time, 9:00 at night, because of course the paper is due tomorrow and it's 9 p.m. and I'm writing this paper. And my dad sat on the phone with me and helped me write this entire paper. And, I got a B on the paper, and my dad was so mad. He's like, your professor knows nothing. This is in the real world, this paper, and I can't believe you got a B. You got to go fight that. And I did, and I think he did end up increasing my grade. But I think what I learned in college was you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, and it's worth fighting for.
Right.
And that one instance taught me what I'm learning in school, what I learn in school, whether it's elementary, middle, high, what college, what I do in real life is gonna matter more.
Right.
And that's really been my whole journey as an adult.
It's funny how you say that, fighting for something. I call it with my kids, I said, you're never going to know the answer or, find a way to get to what you want without asking.
Yeah.
And thankfully, that's something my daughter has taken and run with.
Yeah.
Because she does. If she gets a bad grade, she goes and challenges it. I said, dude, do it.
They have to.
Absolutely.
The hard part is when they do it to you.
That's right. And that's, much to our chagrin and our, detriment.
Yeah.
They'll, I've always taught them the notions of selling. I said, that's one thing you're never going to learn unless you actually sell something, is the skill of selling, at least the fundamentals, and then finding your own voice in it, like I did. I said, I thought I was a good salesperson before I went to the car business, but that business taught me all the fundamentals of the sale, how to build rapport, how to overcome objections, all that stuff, even following up and extracting referrals. B&I taught me about, asking for referrals.
Yeah.
But
we have a great group.
We have an amazing group.
Yeah.
But that's something that they both, my oldest children,
they have to learn how to do it. Well, the other day, my daughter Isabel, she is actually Miss Williamson County Teen USA. She competes for Miss Teen USA next month. She was trying to get out of doing something. She wanted to go somewhere else. And I was entertaining the conversation. She kept coming back with other reasons, and I had the conversation. And my son goes, why don't you just tell her no? Why do you just let her come back to you? And I said, well, I want you guys, I do the same thing with you. I want you to be able to defend your thoughts. And my husband and I don't lead with our answer is no. I mean, there are times where we say that, right? But the majority of the conversations are well, if you have a valid point, we want to hear it and we'll discuss it with you. And I think that's led to our kids feeling confident. I mean, my daughter stood in front of our B&I group and talked about what she was doing. She's a 16-year-old girl, stood in front of 75 adults sharing, what she's doing in her journey with Miss Teen Williamson County.
Yes. I remember that. And that's similar. I get those conversations with my kids where you just got to put the brick wall up.
Yeah.
And I always say, well, you always tell us to ask. I said, I do.
Yeah.
I said, but what else do I tell you? You have to make sure there's something in it for the receiver, for who you're talking to. Because no matter what I did, even when I was selling, there had to be them centric and offering them some sort. That was in it for them.
Yeah. What's in it for them?
There's nothing in this for me.
Yeah.
What you're asking because you want Sonic, is nothing other than, gluttony and
Right.
a temporary pleasure of the palate. I said, dude, I need to lose weight. It's the last thing I need is ice cream.
Yeah.
And I know you want to get ice cream and stuff like that, and they joke because I taught them how to nod their head when they're asking a question to elicit a positive response.
Smart.
So they sit there and be like, you want to get ice cream, Dad? And I go, no, there's nothing, I get what you're trying to do, but you got to be better at this.
Yeah.
We got to work on it.
We're still learning.
So you went and you worked in I guess you kind of learned what to do and probably what not to do in all the different jobs that you've had leading up to your side hustle, which became your main hustle.
Yeah,
Similar
sort
to what
of.
I went through, right?
Sort of, yeah. So I fell in love with the fitting rooms in retail. And I go back to this because I loved helping people. And I share this part because it's integral in the journey where I am now. That when I started in retail, I was awesome in the fitting rooms at helping people, especially women, build outfits and walk out feeling great about themselves. I was terrible with the go backs. Like the go back rack, I was like, you need to hire somebody to put that away because I'm not going to do that. Right. But I learned really quickly what I am good at. And I found this passion for helping people. So that just continued to grow, right? And then I learned how to be a good coach. I was probably a terrible coach at 23 and, had a lot of good leaders that I worked for and a lot of bad leaders that I learned what not to do and kind of felt my own way through that. I was very fortunate to spend almost 10 years under what is now the L Brands, Limited Brands umbrella. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I was young and I look back now and I think God blessed me so much by putting me in that organization. The platform of Limited Brands operating system was incredible. I haven't worked there for years, so I don't know what it's like now, but it taught me so much that left a foundation for me to go build my own businesses through that platform and through some great coaches. So anyways, I spent about 20 years in retail, but the last 5, I decided I wanted something different. To be quite honest, I was in a position where my salary was capped, top of where I was going to be. And I was traveling 3 weeks out of a month. I was traveling from Tuesday to Thursday. So I was leaving my kids, they were young at the time. And it was really hard on our family for me to be gone. And when somebody says your kids need you more as teenagers than they needed you as young children, they're right. Mm-hmm. And I could feel those years coming where I needed to be able to be present. And I didn't see another option. My daughter wanted to do competitive cheer, and I was like, okay, well, I gotta get another job or something because it's to live
your lunch
to give them everything. Give them everything that I want to give them. I need to do something else, and so I started my started working side business and grew that, and eventually the business as I grew made it possible for me to just walk away from corporate and just do my own thing now. But it started from just wanting to say yes to things. Not that we have to say yes to everything for our kids, but I want to have the option to say yes. We don't say yes to everything.
Right.
But I want to be able to if that's what we want to do.
It's funny how our stories are so similar because I did work for somebody else. I had entrepreneurial not parents, my dad was. Okay. He always owned his own business. And that really didn't take for us. I couldn't wrap my mind around being self-sufficient. I was around my dad who did it. I was around other people. I was in a band with a guy who just, blazed his own path, Hey, we're going to, hang out after band practice. And I was always, well, I got to go to work. I got a shift that starts at 3, And he was the one that had a Camaro that was under a tarp in his parents' driveway. And he was partying it out and just always found ways to just hustle little, couple $100 here. And it was a lot of money. He made he didn't care about taxes and nothing. And he was just one of these guys. I'm like, I don't know how you do it. And of course, for me, when I moved to Vegas, it was eye-opening because my predecessor said, how you come across different people in life, they say something to you and they stick in your mind. Yeah. And you know that at the time it's going to stick for life. This guy, because in radio, you'd have the sales team that made all the money and the production staff and programming staff, like where I was, that was capped.
Yeah.
But we had fun. We had a fun job. And the salespeople had fun too. It was just a different kind of fun. So he was my predecessor. I was taking his old job and I got to meet him one time. And he said, I just got tired of looking at the salespeople drive all the nice cars. I wanted to drive a nice car. So I started a side business doing voiceover production for whoever needed, like an agency. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing.
I love it.
And that was my side hustle from 2001 to now. And now it's my full-time.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't take the full-time seriously till 2016.
What made you do that change?
I got fired for the second time in 3 years. And I just, it
was a gift.
It was, I tell the story all the time on the podcast, but in 2016, I left my last job. It was the second time it happened to me in 3 years and only 2 times in my life. And I called my wife. Well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to do my own thing. Well, what about, are you going to try? No, I'm not going to try and find another job. That's planning to fail.
Yeah.
What about Disney? We had a trip for Disney planned for May, and this was March in 2016. We're going. How are we going to go? I don't know.
Yep.
We're going to figure it out. It's going to happen. And not only did it happen, but it actually turned into a business trip that extended into South Florida and Deerfield Beach with a client that I have down there. And we had 2 weeks in Florida. But the kids got to go to Disney World, and they had their first beach vacation in Florida. It was like, just taking that little step beyond fear.
Yeah.
Was amazing.
When we step out in faith, I think, and I would be remiss if I didn't share the basis of all of this, because I worked in corporate for a long time, and that's hard to walk away from. So for any entrepreneur, that's like, it's scary. I mean, the golden handcuffs, blanket. I was, everything. My husband at the time, I was growing 2 businesses and working full time. And so he wasn't working because somebody had to be home for the kids, and I was never home. And so I had a health scare in 2020, what year are we in? 2020 or 21?
Right.
Somewhere around there. That took me out of my corporate job on a medical leave. And then I was rushed to Vanderbilt in an ambulance, blood transfusion in the ambulance, like major issues, complications from my surgery. And so it was an eye-opening moment for me to say, what am I doing? Yeah. Like, why am I doing all of this? I need to just trust that this is where the Lord's leading me to go and walk away from this. And so it's hard when you get there, and that the balance of building something while you're doing something full time is really tough. And it's so tough that most people won't do it. Yeah. So they just stay where they are. But I'm so grateful that I say to people when I'm coaching them, like, you just got to put your blinders on, stay focused on right now, because it won't be like that forever. And if I ask my kids today, they do remember when I worked. They don't remember that I would get up at 4:30 and work before I went to work and come home from work and work until 9 and maybe take an hour break for put the kids to bed and have dinner. Mm-hmm. They don't remember those hard times. Now they see me like, oh, mom is always with us and she does everything with us. I still work really hard, but I work around our family schedule now. Right. But that taking that step out, it's important to time it right. But sometimes God says, I'm going to time it for you. Yeah. And that's happened to me too.
The company that let me go in 2016, I'm still very good friends with the owner. Yeah, but he's actually a client of ours now.
Awesome.
And we work a lot together. He was actually one of his employees was at our meeting this week.
Oh, nice.
Magic Apple.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're just a tremendous company, and I champion them all the time.
That's awesome.
At this point. So, moving on to the Williamson County Neighbors, was that part of your side hustle?
No, I wanted nothing to do with this world.
Really?
Yeah. When I was in corporate, I built a direct sales business, and direct sales people have mixed emotions about. There's a lot of things I loved about it. What I loved about it was the autonomy, the ability to not have an income cap, the ability to work wherever I wanted to work, and all those things. What I hated was that my income was also dependent on somebody else's work.
Right.
And the business I was in evolved a lot, changed a lot, and I could see things that were coming down the road. And while I still enjoyed it, I didn't like that piece of needing to depend on somebody else, right? I want to be able to help people, but I don't want to depend on someone else to do the work to impact my paycheck.
Right.
So that business, I had a lot of success in that company. Hit the top of the company, got the company car, Mercedes, all the things, and that led to other women asking me for help. And one of our key foundational principles in our family is Luke 12:48, to whom much is given, much will be required. And so I was in a place where all of these women were messaging me, DMing me on Instagram, and can you help me? And can you give me this advice? And my assistant, who I had a full-time assistant, I was working full-time and I paid a full-time assistant. That's when you think about all that, it's like, okay, it was time to walk away. But she would say, Linz, do you want me to answer these people? Like, it's not helping you at all to answer these other people that aren't on your team that are asking. And I just said, yes, we'll answer everybody. And so anyways, that stemmed into this coaching business where I opened it up for a webinar, said anyone wants to come. And I ended up growing this really successful coaching business and loved being able to help women grow their business and impact their entire life, because I take a very holistic approach. I'm not focused on that business anymore. I love it, but I'm not focused on that business right now. And so I was on a retreat with some top level leaders from that company, and one of my friends, her name is Miss Shirley Anderson, we went for a walk one morning, and we weren't real close going into this retreat. We kind of had the same group of friends, but we weren't like real tight, but we both walked every morning. And so we said, hey, let's go for a walk tomorrow before everybody else gets up. And I was kind of deciding what I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't going back to corporate at this point. I was on my medical leave still, and I knew I wasn't going to go back to that world. I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And direct sales wasn't what I saw my long-term future. Mm-hmm. And she shared this opportunity with me she publishes a couple magazines in her community, and just said, you wouldn't believe how great it's been for the community and how good it feels to do something to give back and help businesses at the same time as helping individuals. So anyways, fast forward, that's how I got introduced to the opportunity. I was in College Grove. I've lived in College Grove for almost 10 years now, and I was one of the OGs in College Grove.
Yeah, you got in early.
Yeah, before the majority of
everybody.
So everyone was always asking me who to go to for things, and I was like, well, this kind of makes sense. And then I learned about just the organization that I'm working with, and I fell in love with it and said, I'm gonna go for it and see how I can help my community and see how I can help business owners. And I'm pretty well connected in the community. And so that's what happened there. And it's been over 2.5 years now.
What I love about your magazines is that they're like the print version of this podcast.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
We call it the Facebook of print media because we tell great stories. We highlight hometown heroes, kids and adults that are doing cool things for other people in the community. We highlight a high school student every month. Mm-hmm. How cool is that to be a high school student that's featured, that these publications go out to thousands of residents. We feature pets. We feature a charity or nonprofit every month. That's something that's really important I have to mention Rachel, my VP of Client Relations and Content, because she's built this baby with me from the ground up, and she's still with me. I just saw her today. But we feature stories that are heartwarming. We don't talk about divisive issues, nothing negative. We feature local stories and great business owners and tell their stories in the publication.
It's a magazine that marinates your mind in good stuff.
Yes.
Right?
We do also do digital. I do have digital advertising that goes with it. So it is, for business owners, it's a one-stop shop because we do Facebook, Instagram, Google, business listings, reviews, all that stuff. So we do all of that too. So it's, I met with a business owner this morning, actually, who just bought a local business. Awesome person who lives in the community. It's Town and Country Dry Cleaners. If you're looking for a great dry cleaner in Franklin, they have their heart and soul into that business. And we just talked about doing her digital and, expanded what she was doing with us already to help her impact the community more and impact her business more. And so we try to be that one-stop shop for businesses to support local, but also get their name out there and build their brand with the customers they're looking to have.
Is it kind of easy to attract the advertisers, especially in such a business-rich environment? You've got, the entrepreneurial bug has certainly taken hold over the last probably 5 years, 6 years, right? Everybody's a coach. Everybody's a guru. Everybody's an influencer, an entrepreneur, CEO, whatever. And we got a lot of that here in Middle Tennessee.
Sure do.
Is that kind of, if you were in, Columbus, Ohio, do you think there would be much more of a challenge finding readily available people that want to advertise?
I think it's a fair question. And I think the answer is no, it's not easy. I think there's so many avenues, just like podcasts. There's more than millions of podcasts out there. So to say, pick mine for the 15 minutes a day that you're going to listen, or the hour a day, or whatever it is not easy.
Yeah.
And business owners acknowledge that too when they're saying, pick me as your dry cleaner.
Yeah.
So business owners, what I find honestly, Jim, is most business owners don't know how to build their brand awareness in the community. They think that if they put a sign on their door and say we're open, and they go network with a few folks at a B&I or chamber event or whatever, that business is going to start flooding.
Right.
And unfortunately, most entrepreneurs are really good at what they do, but they're not good at the business side. They're not good at marketing or branding. They're not good at, you can't be good at everything.
Right.
You have to hire people for those things. So I don't think it's easy because most businesses don't want to invest until they're making money, but you can't make money until you invest in your business.
They want to cost justify.
And that's not how it works.
Right.
You got to get known before. And I love to share the Red Bull story. When Red Bull started, they had a very small marketing budget. And so they identified who they wanted to go after, the extreme athletes, race car drivers, skateboarders, snowboarders, the extreme athletes. And so they went and just started hanging out there, handing out Red Bull, and became part of that community. But it cost them, they had to advertise, with those folks. And then they became sponsors, and everyone knows Red Bull now, but they had to start somewhere.
They were very guerrilla.
They didn't have any money, and it took them years to get there.
Yeah.
But that's what we do, is we help businesses get inside the community to become an adopted resident. We tell their story. They become sponsors. I have I shared this the other week. I have a family that was on our cover. We feature local families on the cover of our magazines, and we tell their story within the community. And it's not famous people always. I mean, sometimes we've had coaches and Titans coaches and things like that, but it's not famous people. It's people in the community. We tell their stories, and we've had somebody that shared and said, "Hey, we loved being a feature family." We've had so many people reach out to us about it, but we love opening the magazine and giving business to the people that sponsor that magazine,
right?
Because that's giving back to our community. So I don't think it's easy because you're always having to try to teach people why they need to do what they're doing for marketing and advertising. But our businesses are growing here. So yes, but the organization as a whole, because I'm an independent contractor with BVM, the company I work with, we're growing tremendously. We're one of the fastest growing privately held media companies in North America.
Oh, so nice.
We're growing everywhere, not just here.
Are you seeing what kind of feedback do you get from readers?
Oh, I mean, every day.
Yeah.
I get and that is one thing that I'll say. I mean, a lot of our new sponsors they're readers, and they say, "Hey, we open this and we read it every month, and it's on our coffee table, and we take the calendar of events and we put it on our refrigerator every month, so we know when the Williamson County School calendar, and we put it all in there. It's a service to them, right?" So we have a lot of folks that come to us wanting to advertise because it's their local magazine, but we get great feedback from our readers. We're really fortunate, I will say, but Rachel and I put our heart into that every month. We it's our baby. We treat it like it's important to us because it is.
The advertisers that are in there, are they typically going for a relational angle or transactional, or just depends?
We really don't focus on transactional.
Okay.
It's not a coupon magazine. We're not a direct response. That's not what we do. And we don't, that can hold some value.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, it holds value. I'm
absolutely.
not saying it doesn't, but that's not the approach we take. We want you as a company to be top of mind.
Right.
There's a lot of confusion in the world of, well, I'll put a QR code and I'll be able to know exactly where somebody found me. That doesn't happen. People don't, first of all, QR codes are way overdone and not used. But what happens is we'll just talk about one business. So 615 Aesthetics is one of my sponsors. They're over in Cool Springs, phenomenal. They do a lot of great stuff. When somebody is looking they're my Botox and injectables expert. Mm-hmm. And when somebody's looking for Botox and injectables, they're not likely to go, where have I seen people? Let me go back to the flyer or the mailer or the magazine and go find them. What they do is they search Botox and filler companies near me or aesthetics. And then when they see the businesses listed, they skip the sponsored ones because nobody wants to work with ones that pay to be at the top.
Right.
They go to who's next. And if they recognize you, I know them. I see them every month. That's who I'm going to call. Mm-hmm. They're the expert in my local magazine. And so it's that is not a transactional advertisement. I'm building the brand awareness, and it's feel good. It's top of mind awareness, and it's feeling good about the company. And so we embed these advertisements in with these great articles that feel good when you read them.
Do you ever listen to the Wizard of Ads Monday Morning Memo? Does that ring a bell?
No, I need to. You need to make a list of all these things I need to start listening. You've said that before, actually.
Have I?
Yes,
Okay.
you have.
Because everything you're talking about just is ringing that bell.
Yeah.
Roy H. Williams wrote the trilogy of books from the 90s called The Wizard of Ads.
Okay.
And it's mainly for radio guys and people in my position who are sitting down with clients and writing ads. And a lot of my job in radio was coaching people not to do the laundry lists and all beat your chest type of approaches. I'm like, you got to look at it from the listener's standpoint. What's going to be important to them?
Yep.
All right. The same thing with B&I. I talk to people in B&I, new people like to come on board. I said, your B&I is like you showing up as having a billboard up.
Yeah.
That billboard better be succinct and show the rest of us how easy it is to refer you.
Yeah.
With radio, it was winning the heart before the mind has to decide. And that's what I tried to write for.
Yeah.
But every now and then you get a customer that just, I want to put in this and we got a special on that and blah, blah, blah. And, tell us you heard this ad, that kind of stuff, which never worked.
No.
And I said, I would always tell them, you're setting yourself up for failure and you're going to think that radio doesn't work because you're not going to get anybody who does that.
Right.
You have to think about, put yourself in the listener's shoes. What's going to get them to pay attention?
Right.
Or just at least per the frequency of how much ad space you bought, what's going to swing the hammer?
Right.
Okay. And what's going to connect
differentiates you from your competitors and what
problem
makes
do
you
you
memorable?
solve?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. What problem do you solve? What makes you memorable? Because there's a million other companies out there doing the same thing.
Right. Right. And finding that differentiating factor is always, there's so many books written. I've read, the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, which is it's still relevant today, even though the companies that they use as examples in the book are like IBM and Xerox and, things of that nature.
They were powerhouses.
They were powerhouses.
Yeah.
I talk about the law of candor all the time. And the example they use in the book was Avis and Hertz, the rental car companies. Because back in the day, before they were a huge, wholly owned conglomerate, there's no differentiating between them now.
Right.
Other than, transactional pricing.
Or the colors, right?
Or the colors. Yeah. You go to the airport, they all kind of run together now.
Yep.
But back in the day, when you wanted to rent a car, there was a distinct differentiation between all the car rental companies. Yeah. Avis was the second runner-up to Hertz back in the day. And they basically came out and said, hey, we may not be number one, but we try harder.
Yeah.
And that was their thing.
Yeah.
They admitted a negative to elicit a positive from the prospect. And it was brilliant.
So smart.
Brilliant. McDonald's and Burger King. Burger King's kind of suffering now, but I mean, they would have it your way. We're not just, cookie cutter hamburgers. Yeah, we'll take the pickles off. We'll add some mustard. We'll maybe add onions or remove them. We'll be different that way. Yeah. That's important. Totally important. Do you get a lot of pushback from clients that just want to do transactional coupon type ads at all? Or how do you navigate that conversation?
I mean, it's their space. I'm going to let them do what they want, right? But I'm going to try to be pretty educational with... there's a place for it, right? Yeah. Like we've got specific ads that it might be a bigger buy where it's like, hey, this is a pretty big product. This is going to give you a discount on that. And that's great.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be that return on that thing, right? But it's a hard world to navigate. I think if business owners aren't educated on how marketing and advertising actually works, they have the direct response mentality. So there's some education that goes with it. I really try to focus on education on what do you do to build your brand in this area? And it's brand awareness. And I say, when I'm meeting with business owners, we are not a lead generator.
Right.
You have to be super clear with that because I don't want them coming back to me and going, I didn't get any leads from this. I told you this wasn't, I'm not going to say you won't, right? We have a lot of success stories. I mean, Tom in our B&I group said, hey, Lyndsay, I got 2 new clients in the first month.
That's terrific.
That's awesome. Yeah. I can't guarantee that for everybody, right? Timing was right. The ad was great. We had a big presence. We sent a good message. We told your story. So there's a lot of education that comes there.
There is. And it never is going to end. You have to educate people.
And some want it and some don't. And, I kind of operate under you can't. Those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still.
Is that Carnegie? That's
I don't know. Dave Ramsey's where I heard it.
Oh, really? Because I remember hearing it from I think How to Win Friends and Influence People.
It probably is, but Dave Ramsey by way of that. Yeah, no, it's true. It's like I'm not gonna fight to educate everyone because
I'm not going to try and convince you.
Yeah. You'll figure it out. Right. And I think the other real challenging thing is people go, well, everything's word of mouth. I don't ever have to advertise. It's like, well, what happens when one word of mouth is not good and it destroys that? Or what happens when your competitor moves in and takes over because they're willing to invest in that?
Right.
Then what are you going to do? Because then it's too late. People come and go, okay, I really need to advertise. And it's like, well, yeah, you just lost 40% of your clients. I have a really smart client, really smart, who came to me last week. They've been with me for a long time. And they said, hey, we'd like to talk about what else you can do for us. And they said, hey, there's been some changes to the insurance that we're accepting. And we know we're going to lose some clients. So we know we need to get ahead of it and advertise.
Oh, good.
And I said, congratulations. That is super smart of you.
Yeah.
Because instead of going, oh, we better scale back what we're spending.
Yeah.
You're going, no, we're going to have to regain. We need the customers who are willing to pay for it, for what we do, for our service, because we know we're great.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
But not every business owner thinks like that.
No, they get scarcity minded.
Yes.
Yeah. And my father went through that in the early 90s. You remember, did that affect your family at all? There was an early 90s recession.
Only the 07, 08.
Okay. That was a biggie.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first inkling of a recession that I've ever felt as a human on the planet was age 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
90, 91, 92.
Yeah.
There was a big slowdown. It affected my father's business huge. So he contracted. He did what you're talking about.
Yep.
And it's funny. I talked to Grant Cardone on a previous iteration of a podcast, and I told him this story. He's like, man, your dad did the wrong thing. I would have expanded the crap out of that business. And I'm like, of course you would, because you're Grant Cardone.
Right.
But, if my father were alive, he'd probably have, issues with what he said. I'm like, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. He contracted. And plus, he was in a time of his life. He was 50 some odd years old, going back to having to climb ladders and be in a truck. And it wasn't easy. He was tired.
I mean, it's hard, though. I think about when I walked away from the golden handcuffs of corporate. And listen, I'm not bashing. I loved what I did. I loved the companies I worked for. I'm super proud of my time.
Purpose in your life.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful for that. So I left with a grateful heart. But at that time, I knew that the direct sales business that I was in was not going to be my forever. I knew it. I could see the writing on the wall. I'd been in corporate long enough to know what was coming for that business. And I was able to go, this is not, I'm going to ride this right now, but this is not going to be my forever. So I'm walking away from a guarantee, we think, right? In corporate, it's not really ever a guarantee, but walking away from a salary to go bet on myself. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know, but I'm going to go all in on this.
Right.
And if I had trepidatiously done that, I wouldn't be where I am.
Right.
And you have to bet on yourself. My son said that the other day. He's all about basketball, and he's got amazing trainers at D1 in Spring Hill. A little plug for them. They're amazing. Mm-hmm. D1 Spring Hill, and then he works with a couple other guys at TOA and Stars. And he said, Mom, I'm betting on me.
Good for him.
And it's like, you should bet on you. He's like, I don't know what anybody else can do, but I know what I'm going to do.
Right.
And I'm going to do the work.
Right.
You got to bet on you.
That's awesome. That makes me happy to hear for you.
Me too.
Because, everything that you've done, it's starting to rub off.
Yeah.
And it's in my oldest daughter, I'm starting to see elements of that, because for the longest time I thought, I'm like, they don't even pay attention to what I'm saying.
It's just dad talking.
It's just dad. What does he know? But my wife, I said, they make fun of me for saying marinate. She's like, but they're listening.
Yep.
And she pointed that out. She says, they're hearing that.
Yeah.
And eventually it's going to make sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you. You're not wrong.
We're not, and our kids are listening to everything we do and say. And Isabel will, my 16-year-old, people say, where are you going to go? It's her sophomore year. People are like, oh, where are you going to want to go to school? And she said, I'm going to live at home, and I'm going to Aveda in Cool Springs, and I'm going to not spend a bunch of money. Mom and Dad are going to pay for me to go to Aveda, and I'm going to work for someone, and then I'm going to open my own salon.
Good for her.
And there's this confidence that comes from that, where it's like, I don't have to have the pressure of doing what everybody else is doing.
Well, thankfully, the trades have certainly the perception of the trades has gotten a lot better. Thank you, Mike Rowe. He's really kind of painted the trades in a much better light, certainly much better than what it was painted when I went to high school.
Oh, yeah.
Because the kids that went to, we had Danbury High School, we had Henry Abbott Technical School. Those are the two paths. And the kids who went to Henry Abbott Tech were like, well, yeah, you can't hack. Real school, real school.
Right.
And then, do a white collar job that will, come out of college. But I ended up going to a college, not having it not work out, go to work for my dad, doing a trade, learning how to do it and all that stuff, phone systems. He ended up he retired. I didn't want to continue with his business.
Sure.
So we had a joint venture at the time with an electrical company, and I ended up joining them. And it's funny because here we are in a business with J Squared doing what we do. A lot of it has to do with what I did back then. I know how to wire up a box and put in outlets and hang lights and everything. Yeah,
that's what you do now.
I did. I was doing it yesterday. I was up on a lift changing out lights.
I wouldn't want to be on a lift.
I think it's fun. Every now and then I like to do that. I put the tool belt on and do the thing. I actually enjoy it. If I had to do it every day, it would be a different story.
Yeah, no longer as fun.
Yeah. So, I went and I worked with a lot of people in that business, in the electrical business, who went to Henry Abbott Tech. And I knew their names. I didn't know them. And one of the guys I was working for, he's like, I make $45,000 a year. And he was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was 22 or 21 or 22.
Yeah.
That was good money for him.
Right. Back then, amazing. Yeah, you're young. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and I'm like, you know what? He's got a point.
Well, I think the world has changed a lot in the perception of, and thank goodness that it has, right? But I don't know.
Tell her to become a welder, man. We need more female welders.
And there's a lot of that out there. No, she's going to do what she wants to do, and I'm super pumped for her.
Yeah.
But we have to just embrace
Does she work with your hair or play around with it and style it?
If I let her, she does. But she does come with me to the main atelier is the salon, and it's in Nolensville. Angela Goff owns it, and she's amazing too. So she does come with me, and Angela's nice enough to let her kind of watch and learn, and that's awesome.
The woman that I was telling you earlier, she's done very well.
Yeah, we'll have to get in touch with her too.
Yeah. Yeah, she, similar kind of situation. She was working for a lot of other salons in the area, moved down here from Wisconsin around the same time we did. We're OGs because we moved here in 2005.
Right.
We've got it on everybody.
You're like really OGs, yeah.
We're really OG. So we were always friends with them since we moved here. And she was always working for somebody else. And we had the same kind of conversation on the podcast as well. And at some point, she just wanted to do her own thing. And she's glad she did.
Oh, my gosh. I can't. I said that to Ben today. My son came to us earlier this year and said, I want to homeschool. And
really?
Yeah. So he homeschools. My daughter does not. She goes to Page High, and Ben went to Page High up until.
How old is he?
14.
Okay. So she's the older.
She's older.
Okay.
Yep. So he came and said, I there's a lot of wasted time at school, and there, he had a whole list of here's the case of why I want to homeschool, right? And I'm like, okay, as long as I don't have to teach you, I'm good because I'm not a teacher and I'm not going to try to be a teacher. And so he's been homeschooling, and his priority was I want to train for basketball. I want to train for my sport. And I'll get more sleep. I don't get enough sleep because I'll have to get up for school early, and I'm out late for basketball games or practice. And I want to be able to train and focus on sleep and do Bible study every day and do meditation and yoga. And it's amazing. The discipline this 14-year-old has is insane.
Wow.
I didn't have that at 14.
Neither did I.
But we have to think outside the box because I know Ben's going to do great things because he's been allowed to think about what he actually wants instead of follow what everybody tells you to do.
Right. It's got to be a tough job to be a guidance counselor these days.
Oh man, I don't think I could have done it when we were kids, but definitely not now.
Well, we actually have over here at Summit, we're going to be part of a career day.
Oh, nice.
And part of our company will set up a table, whatever, and basically tell the kids, look, it's okay. You don't have to go to college, guy.
Yep.
It's okay. You can, I'll tell you the same thing I tell my kids. Your 20s are for falling on your face.
Yeah.
If you haven't figured out what you want to do and what you're here on this earth to do and affect people, hopefully in a positive way, you got to figure out what that is. And it's okay. You're going to eat dirt. You're going to fall. You're going to fail. Get back up,
It's
keep on
falling
moving.
forward,
Right.
failing forward.
Right.
I don't know what book. I wish I remembered it. I got to figure it out because I've said this so many times. And it was in my 20s that I heard this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really resonated for me. I'm 41. So in my early 30s is when it really hit me of when you're working, whatever you're doing, when you get so lost in it that you could do it forever and the
Right.
time, you don't even know what time it is, that's what you're supposed to be doing. And for me, it was helping people become better, like coaching them to be better. And I get to do that now.
Well, the good thing is that you're a good coach because you have the stripes.
do.
You've been through the mill. You've been, you have the mileage behind you.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are trying to be coaches these days that just don't. Or they built their business as a coach, and that's their business experience.
Right.
Which is like, okay,
Yeah. Tell me the struggles.
Right. And I always appreciate somebody who is coaching because I think in some way or another, we're always coaching somebody.
Yeah.
A big notion lately that I've been hearing in a lot of podcasts, especially on Brian Covey's podcast, is you're best equipped to help the person you once were. Mm-hmm. And it's so totally true.
It's 100%
100% true.
That's the only reason I started doing coaching was because I wanted to help people. And I still every day say, how am I going to serve those that I'm with today and be a light for whoever I am, whether it's somebody on the phone or somebody I come in contact with, or how can I serve and be a positive light for those people? And,
That was kind of an attitude even in the car business, calling out, following up with customers. And the manager I had at the time, he says, just call your client base, even if you have no reason. And all of us were sitting in the meeting going, okay, what do we say to them? He goes, and he literally, it's again, one of those moments that stuck in my mind and I bookmarked. He looked at all of us and he goes, sup. And I'm like,
okay.
Sometimes it's as simple as that, I had a friend of mine that would ask me, we would, get the pleasantries out of the way. Hey, how you doing? And he'd just go, how are you?
Yep.
And the way he said it, the way he asked it, it was genuine. It wasn't just, passive. He wanted to know how I was.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me good.
Yeah.
I want to know, elaborate. You wouldn't have, I would call customers all the time. Hey, you bought a car from me. You serviced your car here. We met, blah, blah, blah. I have no reason for calling other than to ask you, how's everything going?
Yeah.
How's your business? How's your wife? How are your kids? Just to call and see how you're doing.
And that goes so
Oh my
far.
gosh. With no agenda.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Be them centric. That's what I call it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Look for how can you serve?
Just ask.
Yeah.
How do people find and follow you and all that fun stuff?
So I've got my personal Instagram's private. You can certainly add on there, but
Are
it's
we
not
friends?
public. Yeah, we are.
Okay.
I just tagged you. So it's just Lyndsay.
You just tagged me? Nice. Cool.
It's Lyndsay Stafford, LYNDSAY Stafford, STAFFORD. That's Instagram. I also have Williamson County Neighbors. So there's two Instagrams there. One, it's a little bit more me. Williamson County Neighbors is more branding, marketing, business centered.
Why don't you do like the personal branding thing? You certainly have the fuel and like I said, you got the
teach it, you mean?
Yeah, I'm not teaching personal, but building your own personal brand,
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that, I guess.
I spent a long time in direct sales and you get a little burned out of that.
Oh, really?
Right. I mean, I'm not saying I know that it needs to get married at some point and all that, but
you have a lot to offer. You know what I mean?
Well, thanks, Jim.
And it's like similar to my business partner. We finally got him off the bench because I always called him a reluctant social entrepreneur. He didn't want anything to do with being public about it. And until the last episode I had with Amanda Banks, who you need to meet, she's the one who basically repeated everything I've always told him, but it finally sank in.
Yeah.
It was that unbiased approach. Yeah. And
it was not dad talking,
pretty much, or me telling my wife that she's beautiful, but it doesn't sink in until someone hits on her at the grocery store. Oh my gosh, she asked me out for coffee.
Like I told you today how gorgeous you are.
Yeah, it's like everybody's looking at me. Well, because you're beaming, you're beautiful. You have a look about you that just people are attracted to. I mean, it happens all the freaking time. But what do I know?
Just her husband.
Happens all the time. So she, I would just basically just tell him all the same things. Amanda got in front of him, and all of a sudden we're building him a LinkedIn page. And he's never on Instagram. He has an Instagram page now.
I'm on LinkedIn too. Yeah. Just Lyndsay Stafford.
Right.
I've got it all. Yeah. I mean, there'll be more coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Well, there you go. All the details are going to be in the description that you can find, and follow Lyndsay and, of course, Williamson County Neighbors. Make sure you do that. And please like, subscribe, share, rate, review the podcast episode if you've enjoyed it. We're still going for 10,000 average downloads per episode on an annualized basis. Help us get there. That's by sharing, subscribing, leaving a little blurb, giving a 5-star review, telling your friends about us, all that fun stuff. And at the website, MMTBP.com, if you know somebody who would be a good fit for the podcast, there is a link there that you can apply to be on the show. Hit it up. It lets me know. I'll have a conversation with them, and most likely we'll get them on. All those things are right there, MMTBP.com. Lyndsay, finally happy we did this.
Thanks for having me.